Okay, good morning, everybody. It is January 17th, 2026. It's Larsen Live. How are we all doing today? We opened up with Jim Johnson's Rockhouse, or was it Jimmy Hart? I don't know, and I don't really care. The NWO theme. It fits quite obviously with the title of the stream, but we're not going to talk about that just this minute because there's other things to talk about. The world continues to go to shit just a little bit more every single day. But before we talk about the new world order and how sweet it is, we have to talk about Fashion Week, menswear FW26, and the haute couture SS26. Yes, men's fashion is fashioning, in which a bunch of men who look like handsome Squidward are, well, I say the douche rap is back. You know, we're going back to the 80s style, like the sweater over the shoulders, the sweater cape, the douche rap. I don't know what it's called. I don't know if there's a more proper term for it, but I've always called it the douche rap. Seems to me like that's a pretty fitting name for it. I mean, I knew some absolute douchebags in school, but even they weren't doing the douche rap. So, I guess that was too douchey even for the douchebags I went to school with in the early 2000s, but now it's back. Okay, the pup is whining about something. I hope she's okay. Okay, douche raps all around. Okay, Ralph Lauren is bringing back the douche rap. I don't know what the weather's like where you guys are. Give me 1 second, please. I gotta go deal with my furry child. Okay, I have returned. Yes, my wife was doing something. Like I was saying, I don't know what the weather's like around you, but it's snowing pretty hard here. And my lovely wife was, taking out the garbage while I sit here streaming. I'm a great husband. Yeah, so anyway, apparently, like, the Letterman's jacket is now haute couture. and like hockey jerseys that are not for hockey teams, but for, fashion houses. House spelled with an H-A-U-S. Okay. There's, I do have to say, the Ralph Lauren fashion show is... Easy, baby girl. Come on. All right, nope. Okay, she does not want to sit with me. Anyway, I gotta say, the Ralph Lauren fashion show is better than the Balenciaga fashion show. Mommy's gonna be back in a minute. 1 second. You must excuse Caramel. I am very much the spare human. Daphne is the one she prefers. She barely tolerates me at best. The dog, not my wife, although my wife might also as well. Kidding, of course. But yeah, anyway, the point I was trying to make is, at least Ralph Lauren doesn't have his models, lumbering about like donkeys in a mud puddle like Balenciaga does. So, I guess they're better in that regard. I gotta say, I do think Ralph Lauren is alright in that he bases his fashion on a very sort of mid-20th century, like, northeastern wasp aesthetic, which, it's better than the alternative, certainly. Okay. Shinseki Evans says this reminds me of the Spoonie live streams. Yes, well... Unlike Spoonie, I don't neglect my dog, who, easy, baby girl, easy. Yes, Spoonie, of course, is a terrible dog owner. I know his first dog was Oreo, and, Oreo is long dead, possibly due to severe neglect, due to Spoonie being a depressed loser. Your mother's gonna be back soon. Jeez. Yeah, so anyway. Ponythroat says, I need to get me a douche rap. Yes, we all aspire to be a, Ponzi rich boy with a tennis racket. Ponythroat says, baseball cap under a hoodie for maximum douchiness. Well said. Yeah, unless you're, like, doing high-rise construction in the dead of winter, you should never wear a baseball cap under a hoodie. Shinseki Evans says, Oreo and that squeaky toy drove me nuts. Yeah, it's unprofessional. I don't think my dog understands what I'm doing here for I want to say a living, but I don't make any money off this. But yeah, anyway, to sum it up, Ralph Lauren is better than Balenciaga in that at least Ralph Lauren doesn't make his models dress like weird Hellraiser creatures. Now, fashion is a good thing and all, but let's talk about some more important news, of which there is many. There are many important stories. Hey, my wife has returned. Okay, so let's talk about serious news. Let's talk about two things that relate to the Middle East. First of all, let's go to the United Kingdom. Now, you might be saying, Larsen, how does that relate to the Middle East? Oh, you poor sweet summer child. The UK is basically Middle East North at this point. Kidding, of course. Or am I? Anyway, Kosher Cockney, on January 10th, said that something is absolutely mad. The United Kingdom Parliament is trying to pass a law that would ban marriage between first cousins, which is technically a law that's on the books in at least some parts of the United States, not other parts. I'm sure, as Jeff Foxworthy would say, it has to be a law down south because it's just common damn sense anywhere else. But regardless of that, the UK Parliament wants to ban first cousin marriage. Keir Starmer is blocking that. Okay, we have taken our position on that bill, thank you, says two-tier Keir. Why is he doing this? For the exact idiotic reason you would think he's doing it. Because he recognizes that a large part of his voter base are not particularly educated, Muslim quote-unquote refugees who want to vote for endless free gibs. And these people tend to marry their first cousins. I have seen it said that many marriages amongst Pakistani Brits are between cousins. This has caused some problems, definitely. And of course, he doesn't want to upset his voter base, so he's blocking this bill, Mr. Starmer. And hey, of course, if you give birth to some, crabbed mutant, like incest baby, that's going to give you even more gibs. Sorry, I have to pull a spoonie again. Give me 1 second. Keir Starmer, of course, as I like to hammer on and on about, is, the eternal NPC. He's never had a dream. He's never, he doesn't have a favorite book, movie, food, song, or television show. But, he can, boot up his basic NPC programming enough to understand he doesn't want to piss off his voter base. And so here we are. Let's check out some comments here. Punithor says, damn, Larsen missed the Mussolini reference. Oh, Duce rap. Yes. I really should have gotten that. I literally used that, Lex Luthor supervillain base in my PowerPoint when I describe Italian fascism. Yeah, I totally blew that one. That's, I have no excuse for that. That is my fault. But yeah, Keir Starmer, woof. Hey. Yes, my fellow settlers, we have come to this virgin land to establish a new society where we can live justly, worship freely, and grow vast fields of hemp to make ropes and blankets. Yes, and we'll marry our cousins. Why would we do that? Because they're so darn attractive. I thought that was why we came here. Yes, so I'm sure not every Muslim who's in the United Kingdom has sex with their cousin. And I'm sure some of them came to, live a better life and make a, flavorless nutrient mush they call root marm. If I can reference The Simpsons yet again. But apparently it's enough of a concern that that the incest lobby can affect voter strategy and affect government policy. Oh, and fun fact, if you look up a root marm, there's a whole website called Cartoon Cuisine where people, make recipes from cartoons, similar to what Binging with Babish does on YouTube. So, yeah, basically, root marm is turnips, parsnips, and beets peeled, chopped up, boiled, drained, and mashed into a mush. It doesn't taste bad, it's just incredibly bland. It's basically like vegetable baby food. The real question is, would I prefer to live a life of chastity, abstinence, and flavorless root marm, or marry my attractive cousins? I can't think of marrying my cousins, so I guess it's a life of abstinence and root marm for me. Boy, I butchered the pronunciation of the word abstinence. Okay. Ponythought says, this also affects the Irish traveler community. Their approach to marrying their first cousin is, first cousin marriage, you think we're going to divorce? I suppose that makes sense. I did not know that there were not one but two incestuous demographics in the United Kingdom. Well, three if you count the royal family. Yeah, kidding. Shinseki Evans says they don't all bone their cousins, some of them bone little girls. Yes. Ponytoad says, well, at least they're making an effort to fit in with the UK with the recipe choices. Yes, one thing you can't say about the Indian subcontinent, they like their spices. Well, you see, Shinseki Evan, the little English rose houris, they're just for, momentary pleasure. When you're really, you gotta, settle down and commit. You gotta marry your cousin. At PowerbottomDad1 says, I don't think any country's fumbled harder than the UK. From historically a towering empire to completely cooked. I mean, the United States is pretty close behind. Not too far behind, I should say. So I can't judge that much. But, yeah, this is not great. Thanks, Tony Blair. Thanks for, cool Britannia. It's really doing gangbusters over there. But leaving the UK to go to another Middle Eastern country, a much better off Middle Eastern country, let's see what's going on in Iran. The protests in Iran are still going on. Okay, some estimate that more than 20,000 protesters have been killed by the security forces. That would be the Basij, the religious police, not the Najah or the more professional police, or perhaps the army. I don't know that much of what goes on in Iran, but I think it's something like that. Yes, there's much protesting going on in Iran. Again, I hope that they're successful. People are waving the old, imperial flag, the Pahlavi flag, and in Washington, D.C., anti-Khamenei Iranians are clashing with, white liberal women who support Hamas. Hamas, of course, being funded and to a large extent bankrolled by the mullahs in Iran. So they're fighting it out. Just like the weak liberal white people are fighting the Venezuelans. The Venezuelans who actually support Trump overthrowing Maduro. There's certainly things you can criticize about America's policies in the Middle East, but supporting Hamas, that is not the hill to die on. So what is to be done with Iran? Will they, in fact, become a democracy? I mean, they seem to be demanding the Shah to come back, if anything. Old Prince of Persia there. But, Razorfist talked about it. He said maybe there'll be a constitutional monarchy. I think that would be pretty good, if you must have a monarchy at all. Unlike some people in the online right wing, I've never been particularly enamored by, by the royalty. I mean, you can take a look at the British royal family and see how, royalty and the, true nobility kind of declines after a few generations. As Confucius would say, a noble man is not necessarily a noble... I'm sorry, I butchered that. A nobleman is not necessarily a noble man. That is a rough translation of a famous quote by, Master Kong there. I mean, if you look at the British royals, they're all noblemen, but some of them are not noble men. Yes, mosques are burning in Iran. Will they go back to Zoroastrianism? I don't know, but part of me really hopes they do. Hey. Shinseki Evans says, the Houris in Muslim heaven have no pubic hair, no pee, no poop, no fart. They don't menstruate to get pregnant. They just bone them for all eternity. Yes. So they say. Shinseki Evans says, Zoroastrianism is better than Shia Islam. Yes, I would certainly say so. These Zoroastrians are mocked in the Muslim world as the fire worshippers. I mean, personally, I always thought those towers of silence were pretty cool. But that's just me. 23rd says the Ayatollah is like 86 years old. When he dies, it's going to be like when Enver Hoxha died. People just continue for a few years before going, wait, he's dead. Why are we bothering doing this? Well, I mean, the Ayatollah now is not the first Ayatollah. You know, Khomeini died, and then Khamenei came in. And, you know, all the Ayatollahs are consolidating their power, as Homer Simpson would say. So I'm sure they have another Ayatollah lined up when Khamenei dies. I'm not going to pretend like I know what the Iranian religious government operates like. But, you know, I figure it would be something like that. Shinseki Evans says, democracy does not work in the Muslim world. Only monarchs and military dictators can placate the populace. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like a constitutional monarchy, I think, would be nice. I mean, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to go to the old, trope of, the Persians being more, quote-unquote, civilized than the Arabs. But, I say they could give it a shot. And speaking of, again, the Muslim world, going from Iran to Iraq, there was a protest at the Ishtar Gate in Berlin, Germany. This belongs to Iraq, so says the protester. Those of you who don't know, there is an ancient Babylonian architectural structure, the Ishtar Gate, which was reconstructed and sent to the museum in Berlin. It's the very famous gate. There's like really nice blue bricks, and there's like mosaic reliefs of like lions and the mushushus and the all the creatures and what have you. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I've never been to Berlin, but I've seen pictures. And yes, this man is very upset. How dare you take it out of Iraq? I don't want to tell people like, your culture is bad and you should feel bad, but I will point out that this is, pre-Islamic pagan stuff, and the Muslims they don't really care for Tiamat and Marduk and all the Babylonian deities. I mean, the caliphs spent many, many years destroying all the pre-Muslim antiquities. In fact, ISIS destroyed many of the antiquities in the Baghdad Museum. I mean, yeah, it would be nice if, these things could be in their homelands without being destroyed, but they usually are. Okay. Readers added context. Das Ishtar Tor ist mit der Zustimmung der osmanischen Yeah, basically, I don't speak German. I speak very little Dutch by way of South Africa. Ik leer klein beetje Afrikaans, as one might say. But I can kind of fudge more or less what this means. I think what it's saying is the Ishtar Gate was excavated and sent to Germany, and, many antiquities were destroyed in the Baghdad Museum, so deal with it. Also, remember what happened when Britain returned the Benin bronzes back to Nigeria instead of, the actual country Benin, and they just disappeared into a private collection and no one ever saw them again? Yeah. Dr. Jones was right. These things belong in the museums. I mean, for God's sake, they literally, for hundreds of years, they took stones off the pyramids to, build houses and stuff. And speaking of Iran, remember, they have those, Mazda statues. I'm sure the government's destroyed those. The Bamiyan Buddhas were destroyed by the Taliban. In some cases, it should be in a museum and not in your country. Because your country doesn't know what to do with antiquities. Okay. Shinseki Evans says they're iconoclasts. Iraqis don't take care of their artifacts. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay. And then going back to Britain. Sorry, I've been staggering back and forth here. Okay. Apparently, there is a pub tax in Britain. Rachel Reeves did not know that the impact of her pub tax raid when she delivered her budget, the business secretary claimed. Okay, they said there's some kind of a tax on public houses. Basically, apparently they pay like reduced tax rates or something like that. Because it says village pubs suffered a further blow and was subsequently revealed some would be forced to pay business rates for the first time under a reevaluation of their rateable tax values. Rachel Reeves, who's I guess the exchequer. I'm not going to pretend like I know what the British government's like. Yeah, so she did not realize the impact of the pub tax. She's the head of the Treasury, this woman. This is her defense. She didn't know what the hell she was doing. Rachel Reeves. Yeah, so I guess she would be the exchequer. Wow, that was a close call. I mean, I destroyed this millennia-old industry out of my own incompetence. Waka waka. Did you really not understand why this would be a problem, Mrs. Reeves? The pub tax would be a problem. I mean, you live in the United Kingdom. I mean, pubs are pretty much the only reason keeping, the people, like, going day to day, from what I gather. And you take that away, people are going to get mad. You can take a lot from people, but when you take away their booze, shit will pop off. Yeah. Ponythroat says, allowing Middle Eastern people dynamite was a tragedy to all archaeology. Yes, it was. Because otherwise they'd have to destroy their icons with sledgehammers. Ponythroat says, the pub tax was U-turned after like a week after it was announced. Yeah, I figured it was something like that. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here. I guess we'll finally get to the title story. In that Canadian PM Mark Carney is cozying up to Xi Jinping. He's cozying up to Xi Jinping, and he announces we're going to have the New World Order. The guy next to him seemed a bit upset at this, and that is why I opened up with Rockhouse. Okay. Yes, Mark Carney says, our partnership with China sets us up well for the New World Order. Yes, Scott Moe has a noticeable frown on his face as Mark Carney refers to the New World Order. Okay. Yeah, Ursula von der Leyen also made a speech to the European Union Commission, warning of battle lines forming in a power-based world amid Russia's war in Ukraine and global tensions. She calls for Europe to fight for its place, build defense capabilities, achieve tech and energy independence, and support Ukraine through military aid and child rescues. Yeah, good luck with that, sweetheart. You spent the last 81 years leeching off America's defense capabilities, and you destroyed your own nuclear power plants because they make your pee-pee hurt, and now you're paying the price. I mean, this might all be political theater, considering that in a very closely related story, the Europeans are very worried about America invading Greenland. They're so worried, in fact, that they've sent literally less than 20 soldiers to defend Greenland. As of January 15th, the UK has sent 1 soldier to Greenland. Norway has sent 2. Germany has sent like 10. I think France has sent like 15. Okay, so it's like 30-something soldiers. Yeah, that's, yeah, good luck winning that war. I mean, I personally don't think Trump's going to actually invade Greenland. I think Trump's just doing his usual Trump shit where he just, like, overstates something and he's going to kind of wheel it back. He might try to buy Greenland, land-wise, but I actually don't think he's going to invade. And to be quite honest, I don't think the Europeans are that worried either. I mean, if they were really worried, they would have sent, at least 50 guys, not, like, 2. I don't know, maybe these men are in fact superheroes who can take on entire armies by themselves. But I really doubt it. So says Possum Reviews. This sounds like the shut up. This sounds like the setup for a shitty 90s comedy. Pauly Shore gets enlisted in the military. Because of some red tape treaty bullshit, they pick one guy to send to Greenland, and it's him. And then Pauly Shore wins the war through just sheer incompetence and confusion. I mean, this might be a funny movie if you got, somebody who isn't Pauly Shore. Somebody who's actually, like, funny, like Jim Carrey or something if we're doing the 90s. Hey, Ponythor says, wow, the Cardassians are aligning with the Dominion. Good to know. To fight them, the USA is going to send Ashita Kim. I don't know if they can even find Ashita Kim at this point. Doesn't Ashita Kim literally live in like a truck nowadays? The days of doing bullshit ninja, flippy doos are over, sir. Yeah, the UK is probably not going to... I'm sorry, the US is probably not going to invade Greenland. I highly doubt it. And, that's good. I don't want to go to war. I mean, some people are going to be highly disappointed at America not going to war with some place. Like Lindsay Graham, for example. Lindsay Graham was on record with Fox News, literally like fighting back tears at the news that Donald Trump is not going to bomb Iran. The U.S. is imposing sanctions on the Iranian regime, but Trump is not going to directly bomb Iran. And boy, Lindsey Graham looks absolutely furious about it. I mean, he looks like he just pulled an all-nighter. He looks totally drained, totally miserable. The reports spread that Trump refuses to bomb Iran. He's deeply disappointed. Like, you wouldn't have never thought you would see a guy look this upset that, a country is not going to bomb another country, but man, he really wanted to bomb Iran, as John McCain would put it. I've repeated this before, I'm going to repeat it again. Lindsey Graham is a barely closeted homosexual who, I'm going to presume, just gets off on seeing, like, military death and destruction. Like the pathetic chicken hawk old man that he is. Like, oh no, you're not going to bomb Iran. How am I going to whack off? I can't whack off to this. And before anybody gets on my case calling Lindsey Graham a chicken hawk, he is a chicken hawk. Larsen, he served in the Air Force. Yeah, he was a lawyer, okay? Spare me the bullshit. He never got anywhere near the front lines. Oh, please, for the love of God, just let me bomb Iran. Okay, Lindsay Graham has a colorful origin story as a pool room boy who learned hardscrabble lessons in some kind of weird Tennessee Williams, America. Everything I know about Iran I learned at the pool room. Okay, let me listen to this crap. Okay, so he says everything I learned in the Iranians learned at the pool room. Okay, when he says pool room, he means billiards room. I mean, knowing Lindsey Graham, I would have assumed that by pool room he meant some kind of like Greco-Roman bathhouse where he was a towel boy getting bent over by like pancration fighters. I just gave him his next masturbation fantasy. He didn't specify what exactly he meant by, learning about Iran in the pool room. I'm really going to I'm genuinely surprised that this man actually, when he meant pool room, he meant billiards hall. I mean, I could have sworn he meant Turkish bathhouse. I'm sure he was thinking about Turkish bathhouses, but sadly, it was a billiard room. God, I hate this man like you wouldn't believe. Lindsey Graham is literally Troy McClure, where it's like, can you imagine the world without lawyers? And it's like everybody holding hands and singing, and he cannot abide that, Ms. Lindsay. Okay, let's see. Got some comments here. Shinseki Evans says Ashita Kim is a grumpy old man on Facebook. He was bitching about gross female deodorant commercials. Do I want to ask what deodorant commercials you're referring to? Because I don't know what you're referring to. Boy, it is snowing pretty hard here. Pointy Throat says Lindsey Graham was in the chair force. They didn't even let him operate the Stargate. He was a JAG guy. Note that I said JAG, not JAG off. Although he did plenty of that too. JAG is, of course, Judge Advocate General Corps. Basically, it's like military lawyers. Pony Throat agrees with me that when Lindsey Graham said pool room, I also assumed that he meant gay bathhouse. Well, I mean, I think that just goes without saying. Now, he says that his parents own the liquor store, restaurant, and pool room. But, I mean, to be fair, he might have actually just meant bathhouse. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on over here. We got a lot of things to talk about. Okay. I mean, I took a bunch of like little links pertaining to Iran. But I mean, it's nothing. I mean, that's obviously stuff going down, but nothing's really changed since I took those notes. Anyway, let's go to Australia. Okay, so in the wake of the Bondi Beach shooting in Australia, which was committed by a group of Islamic extremists, the Combating Anti-Semitism, Hate, and Extremism Bill 2026 has been published. Basically, it explicitly targets white nationalists who, are certainly odious people, but they weren't the ones who did the shooting. It explicitly targets white Aussies from discussing mass immigration, multiculturalism, and foreign ideology. It does nothing to, Islamic fundamentalists who committed the shooting. So, again, the Anglosphere is just endlessly declining, toilet fire. Because of course it is. Some commentators are saying that this new bill is the most draconian, illiberal, anti-hate censorship law in the entire Western world. I mean, I'm basically a free speech absolutist. I feel that any speech that is not directly, threatening somebody's life should be allowed, but apparently the Australian government doesn't think so. I'm sure there are many people in America who would want this sort of thing. Thankfully, we don't have it yet. Okay. Let's see. Sorry if my notes are slightly unorganized here. Just let me open up. I'll just open up all these links. Flood my internets with tabs. Okay. And speaking of the Anglosphere, we can just get right to that. In the UK, a British man was arrested at 4 a.m. in front of his cancer-ridden wife for saying in a social media post, "I dislike seeing Palestinian flags everywhere." That's, it's not good. Yep. Knock on the door at 4 in the morning. And, he's getting arrested for making a social media post. I guess I can say America's not quite as bad as that. I mean, we're going down the shitter, but they're going down the shitter even quicker. Ponythroat says Jag had a way more popular spinoff called NCIS, which is like a show from the 70s made in 2003. I didn't know NCIS was a spinoff of Jag. Shinseki Evans says it's amazing how Australia went from a base country to totally soy in just a couple of decades. Yes. Okay, but I want to leave the UK behind for a second. Going back to America. Know how I just said America's doing better than other countries? Yeah, maybe I lied. President Trump is considering appointing Blackrock CIO Rick Ryder for Federal Reserve Chair. Yes, Blackrock. The people who want to make Americans into, feudal serfs renting land from the landlords. That man's going to be in charge of the Federal Reserve. And to think Trump literally said in a statement he wanted to kind of remove these massive, institutional lenders and buyers from purchasing homes. Yeah, just give me that Fell for it again award. This is not good, Trump. Please don't do this. Okay, let's see. So what should I talk about? It's a damn shame I've already been talking about the UK. I guess I should talk about this. Yeah. Keir Starmer. I love a pint of alcohol and a scampi. I'm a regular bloke who supports pubs. Yeah, this would have tied in with the pub tax. Yes, I would like an alcohol, sir. I am an adult man who does business transactions at the business factory. I would like a glass of alcohol, if you will. I mean, is scampi like, average bloke pub food in the United Kingdom? I have my doubts, to be honest. Because scampi has like flavors and butter and like spices on it, and that's very un-British. I mean, considering that, upper class members of the British government literally have like nannies at the age of 40. I'm talking to you, Jacob Rees-Mogg. I would wait. Somebody asked, has Keir Starmer's fingers ever smelled of scampi? I wouldn't be surprised if Keir Starmer has like somebody spoon feeding him in a high chair at this age. I mean, it's pretty pathetic when American politicians try to pretend like, they're down with the people. But it's even worse when people like this do that. And look, there's a video of Keir Starmer trying to hit a punching bag, and it's just the worst punch I've ever seen in my life. I mentioned in class that like Keir Starmer is an NPC, and the kids don't know who he is. I mean, I think you should learn who he is because this is an NPC right here. There's never been a more NPC human being than Keir Starmer. Ponythroat says, do people still refer to things as soy? It's so 2020. We live in a soy society. Well, I mean, we do live in a soy society. I guess it's not really a thing people say anymore. Incidentally, I'm finally making inroads into doing a second edition of my book, The Oriental's Guide to Sex, Strength, and Satisfaction. And yes, I know I've been talking about this for the better part of a decade. Life found a way to keep me from writing. But now I finally have some time. And just going through it, I'm getting rid of like a lot of 2015 era like internet terminology that's a bit embarrassing in 2026. Ponythroat says, I support Keir Starmer drinking a pint of alcohol. I would recommend methanol, a fine vintage. And yes, scampi is pub food, unseasoned like chicken nuggies. I did not know that. I mean, in America, like, pub food would be like, like nuggies or tendies or wings. A lot of chicken, actually. Okay. So let me organize my crap for a second. I'm going to talk about America's continuing decline in a second. But first of all, let's talk about some sports news. Going back to the Middle East, boy, there's a lot of stuff going on there lately, as opposed to normally where it's so nice and peaceful. Algeria played Nigeria in the African Cup in soccer, or football, as our British friends say. Algeria lost. The Algerians were very angry. The Algerian fans started chanting, we're going to castrate all the black men, enslave and rape the women again, just like we used to do back in the day. Boy, that's, Boy, you think American sports rivalries are bad. I mean, if two American football teams play, you're not going to see one crowd screaming how we're going to, like, rape your women and castrate your men again. But, boy, they don't do things half-assed in Algeria, I suppose. Now, of course, props to them for being honest about their history. Many of Muslims will, lie about the brutality of the Islamic slave trade when trying to, criticize the Western European and American slave trades. But here, they're just coming out and saying it. Like, the fact that this is such a common trope in their culture that, like, a stadium full of soccer fans starts screaming this, like, after the Nigerians beat them. I don't even know what to say. Okay. Ponythroat says, in great news, I recently found a 7-bay SCSI Sun microsystem hard drive bay. Ancient techno junk for the pile. Why do you compile so much, like, outdated computers and computer components, sir? Like, are you, in fact, Mr. Spock trying to, hodgepodge a vocoder so you can listen to the historical records in the city on the edge of forever? Probably something like that. Okay. Ponythroat says the Algerians admitting to urine to drill oil again. I mean, nothing wrong with a bit of oil drilling, but, have it be consensual, please. Ponythroat says Algerian soccer fans are notoriously the worst even by soccer fan standards. Right down at the bottom with Serbian fans. Well, yes, I mean, say what you will about Algerian soccer fans. They didn't form, like, genocidal paramilitaries like, Belgrade Red Star did in the 90s. Or maybe they did, I don't know. Shinseki Evans says stone knives and bear skins. Yes, that is what Mr. Spock compared 1930s like radio tubes to when he was attempting to get the vocoder working. Also, it's funny because Joan Collins had never heard of Star Trek before she got that part. Anyway, let's see what else we got going on here. Let's talk about America's ongoing decline. Okay, so breaking news. I guess this is okay. Florida gubernatorial candidate proposes a 50% sin tax for all OnlyFans derived income. In other words, Florida is proposing a hoe tax. And I think that's good. Now, to make something quite clear, the women who do this, they will protest. They'll say sex work is real work. And yes, I agree. It is real work. They should be given common courtesy and treated with the same basic decency everybody else should. But you know what that means, ladies? You gotta pay taxes. The IRS is coming and he's keeping his pimp hand strong. But yeah, the hoes are mad about this. I mean, I think 50% is a little too much. Have them pay the same tax rate anyone else does. I think a nice 35% tax rate should do it. Then again, I've always argued that we should have a flat tax, like a nice 25% for everybody, regardless of income. I mean, I question whether this is going to pass. I mean, you know, the hoes get mad and they have a lot of political power. One might say that anything that would, that would impose any sort of responsibility upon irresponsible women will not fly in the United States. But we shall see what happens. As a side note, if I were to, pimp some ladies, I personally would not wear the typical accoutrements. I mean, you are running a criminal enterprise. Should you not dress inconspicuously? Now, of course, if prostitution was legal, then yeah, I would go whole hog on fuzzy fedoras and what have you. And yeah, I know it's like a issue of street cred and honor and what have you, but trust me, you'll get arrested a lot less if you dress inconspicuously. But, I am genuinely glad to see that more ladies of the night are using websites and, phone apps and things to just work directly for themselves. They don't have to give money to a pimp, no beatings, no drug addiction. They keep their money, and I think that's good. I've always said prostitution is a necessary evil in society. Obviously, you wouldn't want people involved in it. But, like I said, it's a necessary evil. Okay. Javid Shah for Iran, 2006, says tens of thousands killed in Iran. Do you think help is coming from Trump and or Israel? I mean, Trump is imposing sanctions on Iran. I mean, considering the debacles in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, I guess Iraq could technically say we won that, but Afghanistan was a complete shit show. I think Trump is maybe somewhat wary about getting involved in another sandbox fight. Shinseki Evans says, Israel might help, but they're not very popular right now. Neither is the U.S. Ponythroat says, most people had not heard of Star Trek when they got the part. It was not very popular in its original run. It got popular in reruns later. Yeah, so it did. Ponythroat says, I support a flat tax, the Itty Bitty Titty Committee is a terrorist organization. There's nothing wrong with DFC, delicious flat chest, and there's nothing wrong with big bosoms either. It's all about proportion and shape. Same with butts, to be on that topic. Size alone does not make it good. It's about shape and proportion. So yeah, the hoe tax might be good, but some things are not good. Like Philadelphia literacy. 52% of adults in Philadelphia are functionally illiterate. 67% are low illiterate. Almost 40% of adult Philadelphians struggle to fill out a job application, help children with their homework, and read doctor's instructions on medicine. Boy, I don't know what the teachers are doing there. I mean, as a teacher, I kind of hate that shit like this represents me. See, this is what happens when you just get rid of standards and get rid of phonics reading and get rid of things that actually teach people because some cretin has to make their money selling some bullshit educational program that doesn't work. We figured out phonics-based reading thousands of years ago when they invented alphabets. You know, little Leonidas and Stavros were reading the Greek alphabet phonetically, but, you know, the McGraw-Hill people have to say otherwise. Okay. Shinseki Evans says they're illiterate and they vote. He says it's not my fault. The bad kids can't be expelled. I'm not saying it's my fault. I still feel bad about it. The schools are forced to take in literal retards with IQs of 30. And I was just about to mention this, Ponythroat. Yeah, we can't do literacy tests for voting or like IQ tests because that would be like Jim Crow or something. Ponythroat was about to say the exact same thing I said, that he has his tongue firmly in cheek. But yeah, I support literacy tests for voting and IQ tests. And no grandfather clauses this time. Everybody gets it. You can't read, you're below average intelligence, screw you, you don't get the vote. I said this before and I'll say it again. That is my most reactionary opinion, that not everybody should be allowed to vote. And yet, they allow it to happen, and people wonder why America's going down the shitter. Speaking of America going down the shitter, American laborers are now receiving a smaller share of economic output than at any point in history. The laborer's share of GDP, which is to say every single working adult in America, has now 53.8% of the gross domestic product. This is the lowest level ever. Since 2001, workers' portion of national income has dropped more than 10 percentage points. After-tax corporate profit margins have jumped to 11%, near historic highs. Worker productivity has increased. In fact, American laborers work harder than basically any other rich country. The additional gains have flowed upward into corporate profits rather than into workers' paychecks. Boy, thanks, Reagan. You know, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I told her that up until the 1970s, it was fairly common for American labor unions to like literally have gun battles with the police and like strike breakers. In the last 50 years, we just developed this endless taste to just like to eat shit and like the taste of it. Yeah, it's a mystery why this happens. Hey, Shinsei M says, remember, you can't all sign with an X. Yes, I remember Mr. Burns' tontine. Punithor says, are those literacy tests filled with trick, ambiguous questioning? The writing, no doubt, thought were terribly clever, but if he used them in person, he would just get shoved into a locker in a wedgie. Punithor says, infinite third world migration also gave a nice supply of scab labor who are willing to accept low-level living standards. Well, yes, that too. So it always makes me laugh at that meme where it's like, oh, like that foreigner wants your cookie, as if the rich man isn't bringing in the foreigners to lower, wage prices. But I guess that nuance, is impossible for the people to understand. Okay, moving on from that. Let's go to the pop culture side of things and the silly side of things. First off, there is now an app, Magibook. This is, speaking of literacy, this is basically an app that dumbs down text to make it easier to read. Turn hard books into easy books. For example, here's a short passage from The Great Gatsby. The original passage. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've turned over in my mind ever since those youthful days. After the app. When I was young, my dad told me something. I still think about it. Jesus. Does the entire country just have a literacy level of like a 5th grader? Don't answer that, because of course we do. We're all stupid now and nobody cares. I mean, The Great Gatsby is not even that difficult of a book. And it's pretty short, too. I don't see why, you need to, dumb down The Great Gatsby. I mean, we have a population of barely literate Mongoloids, and, colonialism is off the table, so I don't know what we're going to do. Punithor says it took him until he was 11 to read, but he was homeschooled poorly. So, I guess you can't blame yourself for that. Okay. Speaking of the hoe tax, a single lady is blowing up on TikTok. She has programmed a date deposit app. She will only date men who give her a pre-monetary deposit ahead of time. So basically, you have to pay this woman a deposit for the privilege of dating her. So, congratulations, honey. You've literally reinvented prostitution from first principles. In fact, if you consider OnlyFans, and even going before that, YouTube videos of women, bumping and grinding, it seems like women do this a lot, actually. They rediscover prostitution from the first principles. So this is even worse than, at least with prostitution, you're guaranteed to get something out of it. Here, it's like you pay her just in the hopes that you might have sex. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with, hoeing around, but let's just be honest about what you're doing. Boy, I wish I was a computer programmer. I could make some app that allows women to be prostitutes without admitting that they're prostitutes, and I'd be making bank. But, alas, I don't have that talent, so here I am. Yeah, guys, if you're dating a woman and you're like, the woman demands a deposit, yeah, just throw that bitch onto the curb. Like, do not tolerate that crap. I mean, she's got the SSRI eyes, so she's not doing so good, this woman. I mean, $10 says this is just going to end up being a prostitution app, like a glorified prostituting app. But, we'll see. Now, out of curiosity, is the man going to get his money back if the date does not go well? I mean, if she did, then it might be okay. Incidentally, back when I was on the dating apps, there is a scam that they do where they'll, like, say, oh, I would like to go on a date with you, but I need money for the bus, so, Venmo me, like, $10 or whatever. So, yeah, if you guys see that happening, avoid immediately. Pointy Thought says, I bet her previous dating history contained a lot of deposits that the men did not get back. Yeah, well said. Could we just have a meteor, like, destroy society? Or, like, actually, no, it'd be pretty cool if we got, like, that, if we got, like, primal rage happening, like, massive cataclysms, then the world kind of rearranged itself with the Pangea, and then we started worshipping, like, the dinosaurs and stuff. And that'd be pretty cool. Okay, in music news, people have charted the percentage of Billboard Hot 100 #1 hits that have a key change. Any key change at any point in the song. The highest percentage was, looking at this, 1972 with about 35%. And now it's literally less than 10%. So things are slightly picking up in that from 2010 to 2018, there was literally 0 Hot 100 songs that had a key change, but now it's like 2%. So yeah, it's not just you. Music is demonstrably getting less complex and dumber. Everything is converging to a bland, lowest common denominator horseshit. Studies have also shown that colors are becoming less vibrant in the modern age. Everything's going to like a dull haze of just grays and beiges and whites and blacks. Now, of course, there are good musicians. You can go to a local bar, but they don't get the recognition that they so richly deserve. Shinseki Evans says, I hate humans, but I like animals. I wouldn't want an asteroid to hurt them. I think the animals would survive better than your average human would if an asteroid hit. Okay, Ponythroat says, I think it speaks more to what genres were popular and overall complexity. See, in the 60s and 70s, jazz was still popular, a genre known for its key changes. Yes. But I mean, even in the 70s, like, you had like progressive rock, and they were like doing a million key changes and singing songs about like nerd shit. See, this is what happens when, nerds aren't making media. It just gets more boring and lame. Okay. In, speaking of weird sex stuff, women's role-play AIs have a new trending thing. Ice Agent. Yes, there is now, masochist choke me harder daddy fan fiction about ICE agents slamming, liberal women to the ground. Yes, ICE and Minotaur are trending. Morning Glory milking farm combined with ICE detaining. Detained by Desire. Detained by Desire is now an ongoing 10-part series on Wattpad. And I'm sure the women are dressed as handmaids too as they get ravaged by ICE agents. So, yeah. I suppose this was somewhat inevitable. That, as the big, strong immigration enforcers, are abusing people, some women might get turned on by it. You can't resist that, velvet wrapped steel in an ice vest. I feel dirty talking about this. Anyway, let's talk about something that's much more clean and wholesome. People having weird, pet cages attached to their butts that their cats climb into. What is this? Who came up with it? I have no idea. Yeah, it's literally it is literally like a zippered attachment thing that you put on the ass of your pants. It's like a little cat cage, and you're just the cat climbs into it, and you just walk around with the cat kind of hanging out of your ass. I don't know what to say. I mean, I could make a very vulgar joke about gerbils, but I'm not going to. I mean, I'm a dog owner. I love my pet very much, but some people they're a little too into they're a little too into their pets in all the worst ways. Okay. Ponythread says women are fantasizing about ice agents. Stryker, not Sub-Zero. Indeed. At least Motaro is getting action, though. Oh, yes, I remember when Mortal Kombat Armageddon arbitrarily just made Motaro have 2 legs instead of 4 legs, just because they couldn't figure out how to do 4 legs with the engine they had. I don't even remember. What was the horse's ass reason that they, made Motaro a biped? Ponythor says they meant the low-slung backpack. It's literally like a weird poop chute that you attach to your pants and you put your cat in. Alpha Mariga says, I didn't want to get out of bed today because I can watch The Void. That says VOD, but Void would also fit. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that does it for my prepared remarks. Sorry, I just Bill Superfoot Wallace that. Okay. Let's see what else is trending. There's a video where we see compilations of very fruity little boys, and then cut to Khabib Nurmagomedov saying sent to Dagestan and forget. Yeah, some of these kids need to be sent to Dagestan and be forgotten. He's I mean, I guess to some extent, I guess some kids are just born this way, but I don't know, this is something I find really distasteful about these, fruity little boys, gadding about. Yeah, Dagestan forgets. Yeah, so that does it for my prepared remarks. You can say it. Say your last pieces now, should you desire. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of kids who could just be sent to Dagestan for a couple of years, do some like bear wrestling, and bring them back home. Yeah, there's one video in particular where like there's this little, fruity boy like having like an orgasmic reaction to an Oreo, and the dad in the background just looks like he wants to stick a gun in his mouth. In fact, the first video has some kid wearing like Rod Roddy's jacket from The Price is Right, and the dad also looks incredibly disappointed. Okay. Ponythroat says Armageddon, in order to have every character, resort to having all the characters with the same animation templates with different models. It only worked for bipeds and why it had no fatalities. That's why he removed Motaro's ass. Well, I know that's like the actual reason why, like in terms of technology, but I want to know like in the story, like why did they get rid of Motaro's hind legs? I'm gonna look this up. Okay. So I love how, to this day, if you go on like the Mortal Kombat Wikia or TV tropes, for example, the little page code for Motaro is still, Darren Larabee's, without your weapons, you are no match for Motaro, from the Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie. Like, has Motaro literally not said a line since then? I mean, I honestly don't know. Because the last Mortal Kombat game I played was Mortal Kombat 9, where Motaro was in the game, but he's not playable. Let's see. I will say that Motaro is actually markedly easier to beat than, Goro or Kintaro. Those dial combos, work pretty good on him. Also, Darren McBee is... I said Darren Laramie. Yeah, Darren McBee from the Dragon Strike, VHS board game. He was the Barbarian Warrior. Darren McBee, best known for American Gladiators. Okay. Let's see, okay, so there was a curse that was placed on his race, and that's why they didn't have back legs anymore. Okay, Alpha Marie says Japanese children were saying Roku Nana. I assume that's like them talking to the Roku. Ponythroat says, come to think of it, I don't think Motaro ever spoke outside of Armageddon or Defenders of the Realm. Was he even in Defenders of the Realm? Yeah, I really don't think he ever spoke outside of a couple of lines in Annihilation. Oh, he did appear twice in Defenders of the Realm. Of course, Defenders of the Realm, best known for the cartoon show where Jax tearfully admits that he was a fat boy in school, and has that ridiculous like Joker scream that Quan Chi does, like that. It's not great. Yeah, there he is in Defenders of the Realm. That cartoon is atrocious. Does anybody even defend Defenders of the Realm? Because I've never seen anyone actually defend that garbage, and nobody should. Okay, Roku Nana is 6'7". Oh, for fuck's sake. I can't wait for this meme to die. Well, yeah, I'm glad that stupid slop meme content is infecting Japan now. Alpha Mariga says, for some reason, Japan has formal and informal versions of 4 and 7. I did not know that. Hey, Sarah, last pieces now, should you desire. Pony Throat continuing to talk about Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. They had Jax struggling about losing his metal arms, just being reduced to an average giant muscle man who defends the earth. Average guy stuff. Yeah. It's just typical problems that, your average person faces. Yeah, it never sat well with me. He just chose to have the metal arms for no reason. At least in the new continuity, they explain that he got his arms severed. So at least he has a reason to have prosthetics. Hey, say your last pieces now. I told you about the AI calculus memes. AI memes of Andrew Tate explaining matrix multiplication. It's funny. Yeah, I don't think he's much of a mathematician. Okay. Every time a reboot happens, the Valians are looks like Jax's arms are back on the menu, boys. Don't know who the Valians are. Perhaps he meant the villains. Al from Riga says, "Did you talk about Amelia from Pathways?" No, I don't know what that is. Who is that? Okay. Oh, right. The British thing that I did not talk about that, but yes, the British government has this new visual novel, which is supposed to teach the kids how to not be right wing extremists. But Amelia, who is a right wing extremist in the game, is this cute art hoe, with purple hair that everybody likes. I do love when propaganda backfires completely. Yeah, I don't know why the British government thought a corporate Memphis visual novel would convince the children to not become right-wing fascist extremists. Yeah, this backfired spectacularly. And then there's AI memes of Charlie, the protagonist of the game, and Amelia, going off together, freeing Britain from foreign domination, getting married, having children, and so on and so forth. Hey. Alpha Riga says, "I met a black guy working at Trader Joe's named Jax." I mean, I feel like it's a fairly common name or a nickname for Jackson. Okay. Biff Slankovich comes in just as I'm about to leave. So that does it for my prepared remarks. For Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.